Hello friends, this is Svetlana. Welcome to another video from Altenio. This video is a part of the Stamp Focus blog post for the new Brilliant Bubbles stamp set. This set has layering stamps to create 6 different ornaments. For example, here on the coordinating dice insert, you can see how they would look. There are also a couple of bows, ornament cups, a very beautiful sentiment, and a string to hang the ornaments. As usual, you're getting a threefold insert with a layering guide for this set and several examples of how it can be used. You can mix and match layering steps from this set to get different results. For example, on this card I wanted to make monochromatic ornaments, so I skipped middle layers when was stamping them. And here I made multicolor ornaments using red and green inks. Now let's go ahead and make a couple more cards using this set. I will be making 2 cards of the same design, so design-wise they may be counted like one card, which though can be easily replicated with the help of a stamp positioning tool. I will be using my MISTI for stamping today, and I made a couple of A2 card bases out of a solar white cardstock. And I placed one card into my MISTI already. Preliminary, I stamped a work card design onto a scrap paper just to have a general idea to follow. And first I will be stamping the sentiment in the bottom part of the card. I'm starting with the sentiment to kind of hold the space for it. Otherwise, I can end up stamping away the ornaments all over the card and forgetting to leave a space for the sentiment. Here on my sketch, I stamped this long ornament above the sentiment, which didn't leave the space for the 2 top ornaments to be stamped separately. I don't want any ornaments to overlap, as I don't want to deal with a lot of masking. This card will have masking involved later, but I wanted to bring it to minimum. So here I'm using the stamp for the mentioned ornament to plan where to put the sentiment. Once I found the position, I mounted it to the MISTI door. For my first card, I'm using inks from the Deep Blue Seas ink set. And I'm stamping the sentiment now using the darkest ink from the set, which is Starlight dye ink. I will be making both cards simultaneously, switching between them. So now I'm replacing the first card with the second, which I will be stamping using inks from the Sweet Dreams set. And again, for the sentiment, I'm using the darkest color, which is Galactic Stream. Now I'm going ahead and start stamping the ornaments. I'm mounting several stamps at a time to the MISTI door to speed up the stamping process. There will be 5 ornaments, several layers each. If there is a way to do less stamping steps, I try to do it. I'm stamping the bottom layer of the blue card using the lightest ink from the Deep Blue Seas set, which is Sea Breeze. And for the teal card, I'm stamping them using the Dewdrops ink pad. Next, I'm mounting the next group of stamps and stamp them on both cards. One piece of advice from me. It may only my personal problem, I'm not sure if you can relate, but when I do a lot of stamping, I tend to be in the zone and lose attention to what I'm doing. And when you make several cards at a time and use different color scheme, you need to keep some attention to which ink to use on each step. Ask me how I know. It's very easy to drift away, not pay attention, and use an ink pad or a wrong shade or even wrong color. I'm continuing stamping the layers of the ornaments. For the second layer, I'm using the Aqualicious dye ink for the teal card and turquoise for the blue one. For the third layer, I'm using the teal cave and tide blue inks correspondingly. And the last top layer, I'm stamping using the Galactic Stream dye ink for the teal card and Starlight for the blue one. I'm also stamping the ornament cups using the same darkest inks. Next, I need to make simple masks for each ornament. I'm stamping the bottom, most solid layers onto a masking paper and cutting them with my scissors. I don't do very precise fuzzy cutting here, rather very quick and rough one. I'm also making the masks a bit smaller than the stamped images. To stamp the pine branches, I'm using a stamp from the Peace on Earth stamp set. And this time, I first stamp all branches on one card and then move to another. In other words, I'm not doing stamping at the same spot on both cards, switching between them and leaving the stamp mounted in the MISTI. To do that, I would need to make 2 masks for each ornament, or move masks between 2 cards every time I stamp. And as I tend to be in the zone, I could forget to apply masks on some point, which would ruin the card, of course. And on this step, I already invested quite a bit of time into these cards and didn't want them to end up ruined. When I was stamping ornaments, which are layered, it had sense to align each layer one time and then stamp twice. In case of these pine branches, it doesn't really matter. By the way, I'm stamping the branches using the evergreen dye ink. So after stamping the branches onto one card, I'm moving the masks onto the second one and stamp all branches onto it. Next, I'm stamping the bows. These stamps are pretty small and it's much easier to stamp them using a small acrylic block. And I decided to get my head in the filming area and totally ruin this part of footage. So I had to cut out an epic process of stamping these small bows. Lastly, I will be stamping the ornament strings. This stamp has a small profile and it was challenging to use it in the MISTI. So I'm going an old school here using a regular acrylic block. As far as the masking goes, as you can see, I'm using pieces of a painter's tape to mask off the parts above the branches. Some overlapping in the pine needles area, in my opinion, is totally okay. So here are the 4 cards made using the recently released Brilliant Bubbles stamp set. I have the blog post and supplies used linked below in the video description. Have a wonderful day and I will see you the next time.